Does he know that you're an IT guy?
Yeah, they don't deal with customers. They don't deal with end users. They only deal with IT companies.
Ha.
That's like their whole
Well,
thing is like they sell to me and I sell to customers so that I deal with the end user. They don't have to.
okay. Well, they won't be in. He won't have a job for very long with that kind of attitude.
Well, like normal, I don't want him to get fired. I just want him to fix my problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get that you're probably having a bad day. That's all well and good. But I'm having a bad day too, okay? My customer is paying me for this service. I am unable to provide it because your system doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And he's acting like I've never touched their system before. And I'm like, I have like 60 other clients that use this system and it all works perfectly fine. Like, I know what I'm doing. There's something wrong with this one. Help me.
You'll have to let us know what happens.
Oh, I'm sure I will. I need the scaffolding. I can't.
It's still filthy in here.
Oh, it includes part of the inside. That's why I can't get it clean. Part of this is included. Oh. Well, now I feel silly. Hey, there we go.
About 3/4 done with the floor.
Hey, all right. Progress.
Yeah.
All right. Archway support clean. All right. Let's get back onto this thing. Why does my pressure washer look like a kid's dream super soaker? I mean, isn't that what pressure washers are? Adult super soakers? Essentially? Like, let's be honest here. Half the reason adults get pressure washers is because it's like,
It's fun.
yeah, like an enormous water gun. An enormous, painful water gun.
I wish this triple head thing, well, I wish it overlapped. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you have to be further away for it to actually overlap. The further away you are, the more it like comes together and becomes one wide stream. And if you're too close, you get that little like 3-line thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have different nozzles, like, and it's just the width of the spray. And then of course this one, you don't get the triple spray until like at the very end of the game, because it's the second widest one in the game, but it's also just as hard, just as powerful as the narrowest sprayer. So you get the best of both worlds, and obviously they don't want to give you that at the beginning of the game.
I think we were doing the Pharaoh's arm when we got it, weren't we?
We were doing something with it's not really the pharaoh, I guess. It's like the
Well,
aquatic pharaoh kind of thing.
yeah.
Because he had like webs. I think it was, I don't know if it was the arm, but it was the one where he was like stuck in the sand, and it was like from chest up.
Yeah.
I think that's when we got it. So we got it like really late. They were only like maybe 4 or 5 maps after that, and that was it. I don't think we had this for the mini golf court.
I don't remember.
I don't either. I'd have to go back and check the video.
Come to think about it, I think the mini golf course was after we got this, but it didn't include this.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe it was.
It seemed like there was one that kind of seemed like it was out of place. And that
Yeah.
may have been it.
Yeah, you know what? I think the mini golf course was one of those. You know, there were a few missions that we had to go at from a different menu.
Yeah.
I think it was in that sub menu, and you couldn't use the. You can't use this sprayer on those missions. Because we also couldn't use the sprayer on the Mars rover. And that was also in the same system.
Well, the Mars rover had been there since the beginning. It was just a
Yes.
special level.
Yeah, we just hadn't done it. You never thought you'd actually see 4 sightings on a pressure washer? Like the reticle? Yeah. Also, what's up, Matthew? Sorry. I just started chatting with you and didn't even say hey. I do that a lot. Somebody will show up and I'll just start having a conversation with them and get to say hi. I mean, I doubt most of them care, because they're like, well, he obviously knows I'm here. We're talking.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the plus sides about making a game like this, is you don't really need to make a sequel. Just make more maps. No reason to make a second, like, standalone game.
Because all the mechanics are the same, no matter,
Yeah,
if you make it a separate game or not, you're still doing the same thing.
exactly. So really, if this company decided like we got to stop doing free maps because we're not making any money off, I'm pretty sure the majority of people would be like, well, release like 10 maps at once and charge us like $5.
Yeah.
I don't care. Charge us for the maps.
Call it a DLC or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly. You're not great with social cues? I don't really have a problem with social cues necessarily. I just jump into conversations. Like, if a friend shows up, the first thing I do is I don't just go like, hey, how are you? Shake hands, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, what's up? What'd you do this weekend? I treat pretty much everyone who shows up to the stream like a friend. In that aspect of like, in my conversation style, it's like we've never stopped talking. We're just picking up where we left off, kind of thing.
And hopefully they treat you the same way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if they don't, then it's, it's fine. I'll stop treating them that way. To get my feelings hurt or anything. Easier for you to just start chatting rather than greet? Yeah, well, there you go. We're the same then. I think we'll work out just fine.
I feel really awkward when I'm first with somebody, even if they're a friend. I never know what to say right up front. So it's easier just to start on a conversation.
Yeah, same.
Now, why didn't this column ding?
I've also never been the kind of person. You don't want me to treat you like your friends? You're an asshole. I mean, isn't that how most people treat their friends to a certain extent? Well, let me rephrase that. Most guys are usually just. It's not necessarily that you're an asshole. It's that you're not censoring yourself or your thought processes around people you consider your friends.
Well, and if they were somebody that you had to censor yourself with, they wouldn't be your friend.
Right.
Because that's not the kind of people you want for friends.
It's like the kind of friends I hang out with are the kind that are like, wow, man, you smell like dog shit today. And it's like, oh, crap. I need to do something about that. Or they're just joking around, you know. Wow, you look like shit. Hey, thanks, buddy. None of the stuff is intended to, like, hurt the other person's feelings. It's just, you're razzing each other. You do enjoy a good, well thought out insult? Yeah. It's like an art form, you know? You gotta know how to insult somebody cleverly and not hurt their feelings. You insult somebody to the point where the insult makes them start laughing. You know? They're just like, oh, get wrecked me.
Yeah, but you also have to kind of know what people will put up with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't do that to people I'm just meeting. Like, I have customers that I do that with at work, but I don't do that with all my customers.
No.
I only do that to customers that, I've built a rapport with, and I know that they're cool with giving each other a hard time.
But it's like, I can insult you and you don't get hurt, and
Right.
vice versa.
Exactly. Like when I do something stupid in a video game and you're like, wow, Matt, you're dumb. And I'm like, oh, got me.
And everybody goes, burn.
Exactly.
Mom, burn. Because I would never really mean it.
Right, right, right. I don't think to myself, wow, my mom thinks I'm an idiot. Okay, so that rear entrance ceiling. Oh, that's a big chunk. I'll leave that. Okay. That is clean. That side is clean. She just doesn't say it out loud. Yeah, that's it. Mom's like, I secretly do hate my child. I just don't want him to know it.
Yeah, that's why I'm here all the time.
Yeah, yeah. That's why she hangs out in chat. Like, how am I going to badmouth him if I'm not here? Wow, I wish this was one section higher. Jeez.
Really? It's too short? Wow.
The scaffolding? Yeah, it's just a touch too short. Well, I mean, the pyramid's like twice as high as the scaffolding. I guess they figured if you, by the time you get that high vertically, the pyramid's too far away from you because it's...
Well, yeah.
And it's going to slowly get further away.
I had toenail surgery this week.
Yikes. You have like an ingrown toenail or something?
Yeah, I had a toenail that it was shaped like a staple
Eesh.
and it was going straight down on either side. And it was really painful. So I went to a podiatrist for the first time ever. And he removed both sides of it and then killed the root so it won't grow back.
Right.
So I've been having to do soaks twice a day and wrapping it up. But it doesn't hurt anymore, thank goodness.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it's healing pretty well. I'm thinking about having him do it to the same thing to the other toe, which isn't quite as bad, but it's...
It does happen.
Yeah, it's getting that way.
Ouchie. Yeah, I think that's genetic, because I have that sometimes on my toes.
Could be.
On my big toes. Where it'll, just the corners will just decide, hey, I'm going to grow down for no reason.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. It is worth finding a podiatrist. I've had ingrown toenails removed before by my GP.
Yeah.
Can't even compare. I mean, it hurt so bad when he did it. And this guy, other than just a brief stick, it was painless, completely painless. And the anesthesia lasted until after I went to bed that night.
Yeah.
So it's worth having somebody who knows what they're doing and doing it properly. Okay, got those columns done. Let me finish this column.
Oh man, the worst. Yeah, Matthew, the worst time I've ever done it. I I had woken up in the middle of the night, had to go to the bathroom, and I kicked the ever living shit out of the toilet.
Oh,
Like, you would have sworn I was trying to crack the porcelain. I kicked it so hard with my bare foot.
ow.
And it split my big toenail like all the way down. Like
Ugh.
the whole thing split in half. And I was just like it and I also did the kind of like the essentially the drunk half asleep thing of like ow 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 it's fine. And then I just went back to bed.
Oh.
Like I put I put like a little wrap thing on it, and then just climbed back into the bed and went to sleep. And then I woke up in the morning, and I undid it and looked at it, and I was all like, "Oh my god, what did I do?" I think I've lost along like if I combine fingernails and toenails together, I think I've lost I don't know 4 or 5 nails total from like smashing them on things, whatever, and then having them they just come off completely.
Yeah. Phew. How's it going out there?
Pretty good. Making some good progress. You kicked the floor.
Ooh, that can hurt too.
Everything but the bottommost layer of the nail bed. No, mine, the one where I kicked the toilet, it literally went like all the way up into where the nail grows from. And when I woke up the next morning and like actually like unwrapped it and started dealing with it, I was all like, man, I probably should have dealt with this last night. There wasn't much I could do, but I was like, it sucks more now because it's like it had swollen up some. You tripped on a cooler full of Legos while walking through your room.
Oh my gosh.
You dumped the
Legos
Legos.
are the worst.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you dump the Legos out and stumble across like a spilled pool of Legos as well? Like, not only did I split my toe open, but now I had to. I like stumbled forward across the Legos. And you're just like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna die.
You and your brother never had Legos. You had the other kind. I forget what it was. The cheaper ones, the generic ones.
Yeah, but we didn't have the big ones.
No,
Like, there were the big ones that were for, like, preschoolers and
toddlers.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you had the real size ones, but they were the generic ones. I think they were made by Sears or somebody like that.
Yeah.
And they probably quit making them because of copyright issues or patent issues or something.
Oh, I'm sure. Because they fit with regular Legos.
Yeah, they did.
I remember some of our friends would come over with real Legos and we'd play with them together and it all
Yeah.
worked. Like, that's... Being an adult now, I look back at it and go, that seems like they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, but we were too poor to have the real Legos because even back then they were really expensive.
Oh, yeah, dude. Legos have never been cheap.
In case you're wondering, I'm working out here with you because I got sick of working inside.
I'll swap with you.
Okay.
I'll go inside. Yeah, you can just climb up this thing. You don't even have to do anything special.
Okay.
You just need a little hop at the beginning to get over that bottom lip, and then it just...
Well, you can see I got quite a bit done, but there's still ceiling and walls.
Dang. Oh, Mom.
There's
Mega...
the inside upstairs too.
Yeah. Yeah, Mega Blocks. Those are the big ones for, like, little kids. We never had those.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time we were playing with Legos, those were too childish. Yeah, this podium still says it's dirty. I'm trying to find the little piece. Like, it's hard finding what is still dirty because it looks so clean.
Yeah, but parts of it actually did ding.
Here we go. All right, so all that's clean. That would make a fun game, OSHA Ride-Up Simulator. There is one. There is essentially an OSHA Ride-Up Simulator. It is... I'll find it. Ooh. This guy's channel. Infra. INFRA. Puts you in the boots of a structural analyst on a routine mission where you go around like construction sites and pointing out problems, taking pictures and stuff like that. So essentially, it is an OSHA simulator.
You know what would be really gross would be to be the health and safety inspector for restaurants.
Ugh. I would not want to do that. Imagine how many restaurants are just filthy
Ugh.
beyond belief.
You remember that time we went to Denny's?
Oh no. Stop.
Ugh.
Yeah, I think it was after we took Dad to the airport,
Yeah.
and we were gonna go. Like, it was like 7 in the morning, and we were like, "Ugh." You're like, "Screw it. Let's just go to Denny's and get food there."
Yeah. And the dang roaches flying all over the place. Oh my gosh. I didn't know roaches could fly.
Didn't they offer to say like, uh, uh, we'll comp your meal, and you were like, "I'm not eating it."
No, they didn't offer anything. They didn't offer a thing. I mean, even the waitresses were cowering away from these things. They were crawling on the windows. I went home and reported it because that was just ridiculous. It's like me reporting Ponchos and getting them to close down. I didn't want them to close it down. I wanted them to fix it.
Yeah, but they just decided, nope, shut it down.
Not worth it. My niece used to come visit me, and we would go to this Mexican restaurant in a nearby city. Just a little hole in the wall place, but sometimes those are the best. And I read in uh, well, it's called Axios, the neighborhood newsletter type thing,
Yep.
that it's been condemned,
Wow.
and some of the problems that they had had with it. I think back to myself, oh, I wish I'd known that when we were eating there. Wouldn't have done it, that's for sure. I mean, they had like black mold all over the kitchen area and buildup of
Yikes.
grease, and oh, it was yuck. What you really want is a health and safety inspector who opens up a restaurant.
Ah, yeah, that's true.
That's where you go to eat. This thing looks like it has barnacles all over it.
A little bit, doesn't it? Man, I am... This... Now I understand why this floor was getting aggravating.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the dirt, and there's like, there's like a little tiny spot of orange here, maybe a tiny dot here, and I'm like, it doesn't look like the progress bar is getting any smaller. Like, there's got to be a huge section of dirt somewhere that we're just not.
Well, I actually was not using tab to check. I just did it until it looked clean to me.
Even with tab, there's hardly anything here. Like, I found a couple of spots that were like, this little tiny thing in this corner that was tucked around this. Okay, well,
Yeah.
that makes sense why Mom didn't see that. But then I'm like, there's a little dot here and a little dot here and a little here, and I'm like, there's not as much as I thought there'd be. Like, the progress bar was like a good, I don't know, 5% waiting, and I'm like, I can't find any dirt. I can't find anything big enough to quantify that big of a chunk. It makes me feel that there's a small section somewhere that just got completely over.
Well, I'm wondering if it's including the upstairs inside.
I don't think so. I think that would be a much bigger chunk. I think it'd be missing like 10 or 12% of that.
Yeah.
The upstairs floor is huge. Is all like almost as big as this one. Your mom found a press-on fingernail in her hamburger. She took it back to the counter, and you could hear the manager talking to the worker who had been told not to wear them anymore.
Huh. I remember as a teenager, I worked at McDonald's for a summer. And there was one time that we were making fries, and this one fry looked kind of weird. And we took it out, and it was a grasshopper.
Oh, no.
That had been frozen with the French fries.
So it came that way from the packing here.
Yeah, yeah. But things like that happen.
Sure, yeah. That's why when stuff like that happens to me, I like, unless it's obvious or egregious, I'm not going to yell at the people that I'm talking to.
Well, no, and it's not their fault anyway.
No.
Especially when it comes that way from the packing company.
Right. I'm always bothered when I see somebody like yelling at a waiter or something about something that's completely out of the waiter's control.
Being a Karen.
Yes. Does that count? That counts as the atrium floor? Well, I found the dirt.
Wow.
The outside lip counts as the floor. The outside lip just was completely untouched because, like, why, right?
Yeah.
And it was the one side of the pyramid I hadn't done yet. You know?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Ugh. Okay. Well, at least that's done.
These Greek key motifs are hard to get all the little nooks and crannies of.
Are you talking like the little spiral sections?
Yeah, those are called Greek keys.
Where are you at? Oh, those. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well,
yeah,
you're also missing the section behind the.
yeah. I know. I'm going to have to move it, but I was just catching up everything else first.
I'll get this section up here for you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll move it up here. All right, I put the scaffolding up in the front, so when eventually.
Okay.
But yeah, after back to a topic from like an hour and a half ago. Uh, After playing the new randomizer where all the keys are randomized, I think I like that one better. It takes a little longer, but it add the added level of complexity is what I'm looking
You know, I got that game called The Witness.
for. Oh yeah.
I got about 2 rooms in and got stuck on one of the puzzles. And I haven't been able to fix it. I haven't been able to go back and figure it out.
Yeah, that's one thing about the witness is you've got to have the ability to just sit there and stare at a puzzle for like an hour
Yeah.
and just kind of screw around with it. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna kind of like mess with stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those where you have to move a ball through a maze kind of thing. And I've looked at it from every direction I can. Uh, all the iterations of movement, and none of them worked. And I have no idea what I'm doing wrong. But I'll get back to it one of these days, and with fresh eyes, maybe I'll figure it out.
That's always one of the nice things I've found. It's excuse me, it's nice and frustrating. Is you'll sit there for like an hour on one thing and I have no idea. I don't know what the game wants me to do. It looks impossible. Blah 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 blah. And then you're like, I'm done for now. And then you come back like 2 days later and you'll finish it in like 2 minutes. You're like, wow, why was I stuck on that?
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, I don't even remember why it was so hard. Like I sat down and within like 2 or 3 minutes, everything clicked into place, and I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And that happened a bunch. That was one of the things in The Witness that I liked, is that if you get stuck on a puzzle and you just sit there for like 30 minutes and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, you can just get up and walk away and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I forget how many puzzles are in that game too, but there's like, I want to say there's like 870 or something puzzles.
I remember it taking you a long time to get through that.
Man, it took me a few weeks, I think. And even then, when I finished the game, you don't need to finish all the puzzles. I think to actually like beat the game and get credits, you only need to beat like 300 something puzzles. But there's like 800 and something puzzles. There's like almost 3 times as many puzzles as you need to actually finish the game.
Yeah.
But it was really fun. I enjoyed it. It's definitely one of those games where you're like, I don't think I played it for more than like 2 hours per sitting, and then I was like, all right, I got to play something else.
Yeah, exactly. Because your brain gets tired.
Exactly, your brain just starts to melt. Oh, I know. Like when I first played Ocarina of Time, right? Uh, I had played. I played a ton of uh, Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I, I, like, I didn't have a lot of games on the Super Nintendo, so I played the games I did have a lot. So like, I had beaten Link to the Past probably a dozen times, blah blah, all that good stuff, and then I played Ocarina of Time when I got a GameCube, and I was just like, oh my god, this is a whole new level of complexity in a Zelda. Like you think to yourself, okay, so it's 3D now, no big deal. Like what all it does is add depth. Wow. And then you're like, no man, have you seen the verticality in some of those dungeons? Like you'd never really trained yourself to look up when you're playing a Zelda game. I remember the first time I did the water temple in Ocarina of Time, and it, like every other dungeon I had completed in like 2 or 3 hours, you know. Uh, Not really a big deal. 2 or 3 hours, you can do that in a sitting. And I think the water temple took me like 12 or 13 hours my first time playing it, because I just kept getting so lost.
I can remember when you were playing on, I think it was the Super Nintendo, and I don't remember what game it was, but we kept having to draw our own maps.
That was the original Nintendo.
Was it?
Yeah, because that was Zelda 1. I remember doing that. I remember going and getting graph paper
Yeah.
and like sitting on the floor and taping sheets of graph paper together and drawing the map to try to remember where everything was. I distinctly remember doing that. Like that's a core memory, you know?
We used to do all kinds of cheat sheets for ourselves.
Yep.
Like when we played A Boy and His Blob,
Oh my god.
we had to write down what everything did.
Yeah,
That was a fun game though.
you would test the jelly beans and figure out what the blob would change into.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what threw me off in the water temple was having to raise and lower the water. I remember I remember starting the water temple and playing it for like 4 or 5 hours and not getting anywhere and having to save and quit. And that was terrible because when you saved and quit in temples in Ocarina of Time, it would start you at the beginning of the temple next time. So you would be like halfway through the temple and then you're like, I gotta like go to bed or whatever. And you'd save and quit, and then you'd come back the next day and the game would be on. Alright, cool. So we're starting over now. We're at the beginning. And you're like, no. Yeah, I'm not talking about like speedrunning strats or like ways you can skip portions of a dungeon and stuff like that. Because as a little kid, the first time you play that game, you're not doing stuff like that. Like, I do tricks in Legend of Zelda and, like, Link to the Past and Super Metroid now. Just because I've watched speedrunners and things like that. And I'm, like, the couple of speedrun strats I do are, like, the easiest ones. I'm seeing other speedrun strats, and I'm just like, yeah, there's no way in hell I'm in.
That's how I learned how to play Viscera as well as I can, because I'd watch speedrunners do it and get all kinds of tips on how to do it faster and more efficiently.
Yeah. And some of the tips are less about necessarily speed, but efficiency, like you said, where it's, you know, yeah, it is faster to do it this way. It's also just easier. And you're like, oh, I never thought of it like that. There's certain kinds of speedruns that I enjoy watching and certain ones I don't. Like, when they do speedruns at GDQ where the players, like, just destroy the game and the game is beaten in ways that the developers weren't even intending it to be, like, you're constantly clipping out of bounds and doing wrong warps and arbitrary code execution, stuff like that, and I don't find those nearly as entertaining as watching somebody play the game in a relatively normal manner and just being ridiculously good and fast at it. I find that far more entertaining. Hey, these murals inside,
Ooh.
they have pictures of jobs that we've done.
Huh.
Come check this out.
I didn't even know there were murals in there.
Yeah, come check this out.
All right, hang on, I'm up at the top here.
But there's, like, the airplane over here, and then the horse thing.
And the Ferris wheel.
Yeah, this is all the circus stuff. And then it shows the dude with a power washer. And then
and the big slide thing.
Yep. And then the toilets in the subway.
Yeah.
Bet you there's more on the other side.
Oh, I'm sure. I didn't even know those were here.
Oh yeah,
because it was so dirty.
There's the boat.
Oh, the temple.
Yeah, the Viking temple. Is there anything more on this one? Oh, the pelican. Okay. Then this one is... Oh, a bunch of the houses?
Yeah.
Man, that's cool.
It is. Oh, that one doesn't have a mural on it.
There's none on the outside. It's just these little alcoves. Cool.
Neat.
Yeah, but this October, I think I'm going to play... I think I'm going to replay Dead Space 1 and 2. I like those games. Those are good. I'm going to play the special game that I'm not telling anybody about. I have a couple of other, like, horror-esque games that I bought when they were on sale, so I'll probably play those. Because none of them are super long. I watch devs watch speedrunners. Oh yeah, I've watched a couple of those videos. I watched one that I thought was really funny because the dev was like, they asked the dev, they're like, did you know this was possible? And the dev was like, yeah, but I didn't think anybody would ever find it. And I went, like, after the game came out, I went and watched people play it on Twitch, and like the first day somebody had found it and was exploiting it. And I was like, I never thought anybody would ever find it, and somebody found it on the first day and had already started implementing it in speedruns. I was all like, that's hilarious.
Gamers are hardcore, man. If they can find something like that, they will use it.
Yep. Well, I watched this thing, one of the speedrunners for Super Metroid. He was talking to people in his chat because people were like, man, I wonder what the developers of Super Metroid think about the speedrun strat, stuff like that. And he said that they had, like, since Super Metroid is such a big speedrunning game, they had found a bunch of the original developers from, like, 1992 or whenever it was first made, and they had asked him about it, and the developers were like, obviously some of the things that the speedrun does they weren't aware of, but they're like, a lot of the stuff we knew back then that it was possible, and we just decided not to fix it because we were like, it'd be really cool if people found it and figured out a way to utilize it. Like, they never thought at the time, they never thought speedrunning was a thing. But
Yeah.
But they were like, we know that you can skip this whole section of the game if you do this really difficult jump into this area that you're not supposed to be able to do. But we're going to go ahead and leave it there as like a neat little, like, hey, if somebody figures it out, you know, more power to them.
Almost like an Easter egg.
Kinda, yeah. Like, a known speedrun strat, well, they didn't know it was speedrunning at the time, but a known strategy for skipping a portion of the game, and the developer was just like, it's fine, who cares? If somebody figures it out, it's all good. It doesn't break the game, necessarily. It just allows...
And the only people it really helps are the speedrunners, anyway.
Right. Because your average...
I was going to say that.
Yeah, the average person, even if they figure out how to do it, they're going to be like, holy crap, what did I just do? Like the I do one or two speedrun strats in randomizers just because it's handy to be able to do it. But like the one where you can jump on the ledge and morph into ball mode and go across the crumble blocks without falling through. You're supposed to fall through those. But if you go fast enough, you can go over the top of them. And it doesn't really do anything other than allow you to get like 2 items earlier than you're supposed to. But those items aren't really game breaking. It just gives you access to super missiles. And it makes bosses like It makes the very first boss you fight in the game a little bit easier because you're hitting them with a missile that they didn't intend for you to have access to yet. So, of course, the boss takes a lot of damage from that missile type. But in a randomizer, it helps because that's probably not missiles. That could be anything. It could be something really handy. Or it could be something even worse than what it was supposed to be. Then it's not helpful at all. That being said, about that trick with rolling and going underneath those things you're not supposed to go under, I for some reason I can do it in that particular spot, but there was the other spot I kept trying to do it, just could not get it to work. And I was like, it would be so handy if I could skip this. Can't get it. That's done. Ugh. Yeah, I'm not a bit, like I said, I'm not a big fan of clipping out of it. I just don't find that as entertaining. Or that arbitrary code execution stuff that they do in Ocarina of Time. Where, like, you, through weird manipulation of button presses, you can confuse the game cartridge into giving you a specific item. And people are like, "Oh, that's so cool," and I'm all like, it's cool as a tech thing. Like, it's neat that people have figured out how to do it. But when they started implementing that into speed runs, and they were like, "I can beat the game in, 3 minutes because I can trigger the cutscenes from the very first area," I was like, "Why? That's not
Well,
fun."
that's basically cheating. I mean, if you're going to be speed running, you should speed run the way the game was meant to be played. You know?
And it's definitely how I prefer it. Yeah.
Or otherwise you're cheating to do it.
I'm fine. Like, the way they do it with speedrunning right now is they have different categories. So, like, normal play style still exists, and arbitrary code execution exists too, but they don't compete against each other. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, as long as they keep it separate. But, like, if somebody's like, "Hey, you want to watch a speed run?" and they show me like a 45-second speed run of somebody beating this game by confusing the cartridge into playing the credits, I'm like, well, why was that fun?
Yeah. Uh,
It's cool that it exists, but it's not something I'm really all that interested in.
and it's not truly speed running, in my opinion. Because you didn't run it.
Yeah, I can see that argument. I don't think I would necessarily go there myself, because too many people do believe in speedrunning. And I'm like,
Well,
okay. Like, I'm not going to argue that aspect, but, like, I will say, like, it is not the same as 100% speedrun. Like, you should not.
yeah.
You definitely should not be calculating the speed of the run for that the same way you do regular play.
Yeah.
That's why I tend to like watching 100% speed runs, where they're like they have to obtain all of a particular item. Whatever. Like swordless. Yeah, exactly. Like in Zelda games, how you can beat some Zelda games without using the sword. I find that really interesting. Like, show me beating all the bosses and never using a sword. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Or yeah, like the current concept of doing all the Dark Souls games without taking a hit.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, yeah. I have a hard time just beating the first Dark Souls game at all. And there are people that can beat like 5 of those difficult games back to back to back without stopping and don't get hit by anything. And I'm like, oh my god, that's insane. I don't think they've managed to combine all the games again since Elden Ring. I know they've done hitless Elden Ring, I just don't think they've done all the games together in one run. Although I'm also out of the loop, so... I would argue with you on that one too, Talon. It does take, like, yes, the movements are almost always identical. If you do the same movements, the enemies will move the same way every time. The problem is compensating when you make a mistake, because the player is going to do something wrong, and now the enemy AI is going to do something that they're not expecting, and now the player has to compensate for that on the fly.